Good evening. Tonight's big stories. Former Comelec chairman Andy Bautista, along with 3 others, is indicted by a federal grand jury in the United States for allegedly taking bribes from a company that provided voting machines for the 2016 Philippine elections.
And as it turns out, the current Comelec helped build the case against Bautista through the local Justice Department, as confirmed by current chair George Garcia. Garcia himself is being accused of bribery.
And the Court of Appeals has voided the 2018 shutdown of Rappler, ordering the Securities and Exchange Commission to reinstate their certificate of incorporation in its records and system.
Good evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Pauline Berzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
A lot of big legal cases that we're tackling tonight, beginning with former Comelec chief Andy Bautista being indicted by the U.S. for an alleged bribery and money laundering charges in connection to the purchase of vote counting machines used in the 2016 Philippine elections. You may recall that Smartmatic was awarded that contract.
Now, one basis for this indictment is the $1 million in bribes allegedly paid to Bautista to obtain and retain business with the company.
Now, incumbent Comelec chairman George Garcia, who himself is facing bribery accusations, welcomed this indictment, saying it's proof the poll body made the right call to drop Smartmatic as a service provider for the midterms next year. Camille Samonte with the big story.
Former Comelec chairman Andy Bautista has been formally charged in the U.S. A U.S. federal grand jury in Florida indicted him and 3 others for alleged bribery and money laundering in the purchase of vote counting machines for the 2016 Philippine elections. Bautista is facing 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering and 3 counts of international laundering of monetary instruments. The U.S. Justice Department said in a press release that Bautista was paid at least $1 million in bribes. The bribes were allegedly paid to obtain and retain election services for the 2016 Philippine elections. Now, the Justice Department did not explicitly name Smartmatic in its indictment, but one of the 3 others indicted, Roger Pinati Martinez, 49 years old, has been identified as a co-founder of the company and a resident of Florida. Bautista has since denied taking bribes from Smartmatic or any other company. In a post on X, he said, "I sense these charges were politically influenced by key Philippine officials." The voting machine company won the contract before, during, and after my tenure as chairman, a role I performed during the 2016 elections with zeal and competence in service of the Filipino people. Bautista also said he will fight for exoneration in court. Smartmatic also denied the bribery and money laundering allegations. In a statement, the company said no voter fraud has been alleged and Smartmatic is not indicted. Voters worldwide must be assured that the elections they participate in are conducted with the utmost integrity and transparency. These are the values that Smartmatic lives. Smartmatic also confirmed that they have had 2 employees charged for violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in the Philippines almost 10 years ago, and that they immediately took measures. Sitting Comelec chairman George Garcia, meanwhile, welcomed the indictment. He said, "What a sudden turn of events. It would appear to be a sort of vindication on the part of the present commission. We were right all along when we disqualified Smartmatic." Comelec under Garcia has been questioned over its move to award the 2025 midterm elections to a South Korean firm, Miro Systems. Garcia himself is currently being accused of bribery and being linked by a House lawmaker to offshore bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, which allegedly received deposits from South Korean banks. The Philippine Justice Department, meanwhile, has yet to issue a comment on whether Bautista is in U.S. custody. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Well, Comelec Chair George Garcia confirmed on our sister program StoryCon that indeed they helped the U.S. Justice Department build up a case against former Chair Andy Bautista. Take a listen.
Opo, tumulong po kami sa ating Philippine DOJ. Siya po ang kausap mismo directly ng DOJ. At may mga pangalan po na mga pinatawag, mga pangalan ng mga opisyal namin na hiningan po ng deposition. Hiningan ng mga tinanong po sila Tinanong po sila ng mga investigador at mga abogado ng USDOJ. Ang dami pong dokumento na hiningi po sa amin. Pero ang madami po talaga, Ma'am Ami, na dokumento ay nanggaling sa NBI natin. Sila po ang may talagang organized at very systematic na mga dokumento patungkol po doon sa kaso na na-file sa dati namin pong chairman. Mga 3 buwan pa lamang ako na a-appoint noong 2022, mga bandang November or December, ay may sulat na po sila sa akin.
As for his own case, wherein he himself is being accused of bribery by Sagip Party List Representative Rodante Marcoleta, Garcia says it's a demolition job. 2 weeks ago, Marcoleta had presented bank transfer receipts linking Garcia to 2 offshore bank accounts in the Cayman Islands that had supposedly received money from South Korea. The insinuation is that Miro Systems, a South Korean firm, had been bribing Comelec officials. In total, according to Marcoleta, these offshore accounts got over 1 billion pesos worth of deposits. Garcia says he's never even stepped foot in the U.S., so how could he have opened bank accounts there?
Una, ako po'y hindi pa nakakapunta, nakakatuntong kahit tuko ng daliri ng paa ko nakakatapa sa United States, sa Amerika. Wala pa po ako napupunta ang teritoryo o estado ng Amerika. Kahit po sa Cayman, hindi pa po ako nakakapunta. Hindi ko nga po alam kung saan yung Cayman na yan. So, ang sabi po ng 2 bangko, lalo na sa Cayman, para makapagbukas ka ng account sa kanila, kailangan ikaw ay personally present. So paano po ako nakapagbukas kung hindi pa ako nakakapunta doon sa mga bangko, sa mga bansang yun? Lalo na po sa Amerika. Napakahigpit ang Amerika sa kanilang banking laws at dahil sa kanilang karanasan noong 9/11, kaya meron silang Patriot Act na tinatawag.
Garcia is now threatening to file an ethics complaint against Marcoleta. When asked about the gentleman's very public spat, Senator Amy Marcos had this to say.
Huwag na tayong magbatuhan ng kung ano-ano, mas maigi magpakita ng ebidensya. May katunayan, edi kung may katibayan tayo, pakita na, ilabas na natin sa lalong madaling panahon. At ang pinakamahirap, itong nangyayari sa ating mga halala na hindi tiwala, walang kumpiyansa yung tao, mas matindi yung problemang yan. Sabi nga sa Pilipinas daw, 2 uri lang ang kandidato, yung nananalo at yung nadadaya. Wala raw kailanman natatalo. Huwag naman ganon. Dapat maniwala pa rin tayo sa ating boto, the sacred right to vote.
Now in other news, in just 3 days, a special group over at the lower house starts investigating the Duterte administration's war on drugs. What will that unearth? Well, House leaders pressured a police officer into testifying against him before the ICC. Brian Basa with the story.
Beginning August 15th, the House of Representatives will kick off an investigation into illegal drugs, offshore gaming operations, and the supposed quota and reward system within the PNP during the drug war. Tackling these controversial issues is a group that calls themselves the Quad Committee, composed of the House panels on dangerous drugs, public order and safety, public accounts, and human rights. According to Dangerous Drugs Committee Chairman Ace Barbers, there are retired and active uniformed personnel who have already expressed intent to come forward to testify on extrajudicial killings under former President Rodrigo Duterte. The Quad Committee says it will also offer executive or closed-door sessions should witnesses request it.
Welcome na welcome po yan at yan po ay tatanggapin natin. Ngunit, wala po sanang kapalit na hihingiin. Dahil hindi po natin ito tolerate yung may mga kapalit, no? Ito po ay gawin natin para sa bayan, hindi po ito para sa kung kanino man.
Meantime, Barbers is calling Senator Bato de la Rosa a marites, meaning a gossip. The former PNP chief earlier claimed that House leaders are trying to convince other ex-PNP officials implicated in the ICC's drug war probe to turn against him and ex-President Duterte. Senator Bato identified them as Congressman Elizalde Co, National Intelligence Coordinating Agency Director General Ricardo de Leon, and House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Congressman Co confirmed that some months ago, he saw former CIDG Chief Major General Romeo Karamat at the townhouse of Romualdez. Karamat supposedly vowed to tell everything he knows about EJ case if he gets the top PNP post. But the Speaker apparently flatly rejected this. Romualdez supposedly explained that he is not in a position to endorse appointments and that such a decision is up to President Marcos. Cos said there was never any mention of testifying against anyone before the ICC. The lawmaker added he has never met former PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde, NAPOLCOM Commissioner Edilberto Leonardo, and former PNP Chief for Intelligence Eleazar Mata. These three, Karamat and Senator De La Rosa, have been tagged as suspects by the ICC, according to former Senator Sonny Trillanes. NICA Director General Ricardo De Leon seconded Congressman Cos' statements and added that Karamat even offered incriminating information on the Duterte administration's drug war. That included hit lists plus weekly quotas and reward for policemen involved in Tokhang operations. For News 5, I'm Brian Basa, and we are One News.
To make a quick correction in the headline that you just read,
Yes.
we think
think
some words might have gotten accidentally deleted, but it should have read that.
It should have read that there was also a rebuff of Senator Bato de la Rosa's claim that House leaders pressured a police officer into testifying against him before the ICC, as that report had said.
Which we heard
yes, Congressman Barbers.
in that very story. That's right. And we also got a statement from Representative Ko already.
Meanwhile, in other news, the Court of Appeals has voided the 2018 shutdown order against Rappler by the Securities and Exchange Commission. In 2018, the Regulatory Commission ordered Rappler's shutdown for violating constitutional prohibitions by issuing Philippine depositary receipts to the foreign entity Omidyar Network, giving it control over the media organization. The Court of Appeals upheld this decision, citing violations of the Constitution and foreign equity restrictions in mass media. However, the court asked the Commission to assess the impact of Omidyar Network's alleged donation of its PDRs to Rappler's staff. In 2022, the Commission ruled that this donation did not resolve the violation and upheld the revocation of Rappler's certificates. But following their decision on July 23, the CA has since ordered the SEC to restore Rappler's certificate of incorporation in its records and system. It found that the SEC on Bank acted with, quote, grave abuse of discretion in revoking the firm's certificate. The decision also noted that the Regulatory Commission did not conduct any hearing nor receive any evidence from petitioners prior to making its ruling. With this, the CA said that the facts show that Rappler Holdings, and by extension Rappler, are currently wholly owned and managed by Filipinos in compliance with the constitutional mandate. Rappler has since welcomed the CA's ruling, emphasizing the importance of press freedom and democracy.
Rappler welcomes the Court of Appeals ruling that eliminates a long-standing threat to its corporate existence on account of a flawed ruling by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, led then by Teresita Arbosa. When the rule of law prevails, justice is served.
We want to thank the Court of Appeals for a well-reasoned decision, very objective, and a decision that has tremendous impact on the ability of our corporates to raise capital and to stay in business, but more importantly, on the impact of the decision on press freedom and our democracy in general.
And the Senate is now keen on limiting the number of local holidays being approved, saying too much holidays could be affecting the country's competitiveness. Here's the report.
In the Philippines, many look forward to the declaration of annual holidays. Each year, there are 18 national holidays announced by Malacanang. In addition to that, there are also local holidays declared by local governments. With so many holidays, Senate President Cheese Escudero thinks it may be time to limit or consolidate them.
Pero yung holiday nagkasundo ang Senado na limitahan ng mga holiday, mahigit isang buwan na ang holiday sa buong bansa, which makes Philippine companies and workers less competitive. Because our competitors from other countries aren't requiring these companies to pay double. Dahil nagkataon lamang na holiday.
Escudero says one solution would be to combine certain holidays, although he admits that getting the ball rolling on this proposal is a challenge in itself.
Isa yun sa pinapapag-aralan ko sa kanila ngayon sa komite. Ang problema lang, away yan eh. Pero hindi naman kailangan gawin ngayon. Simulan lang natin yung proseso. Hayaan mo mag-percolate siya, mapagpasan.
True enough, workers and employers groups are split.
Maraming mga workers natin, no work, no pay. Marami no work, no pay. Walang kita yun. Tapos, ang dami na nating holiday sa Pilipinas. Mga investors, hindi lang naman yun, nag-turn off na hindi na maintindihan bakit ang Pilipinas kahit hindi nag-declare na holidays.
The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, says it would only demoralize workers.
Meron tayong tinatawag na holiday economy. Ito yung nakikita nating pampasigla dun sa ating ekonomiya. At ngayon din yung ating mga manggagawa, ito yung mga benepisyong nararapat at nakuha na nila, ba't po natin babawi?
Labor Secretary Benny Laguesma says the proposal needs to strike a balance.
Meron siyang plus-minus. Lagi namin sinasabi sa mga bibigyan nyo ng tamang schedule ang mga manggagawa para ma-avail nila yung kanilang bakasyon. Because that is also part of addressing work-life quality. No? Nakakapagbakasyon ka kasi meron ding such thing as burnout Hindi naman pwedeng 365 days 24/7 kayo dahil madali kayong magkakaroon ng karamdaman na makakaapekto sa inyo. Hindi lang physically, mentally.
For now, the Senate will continue to look into how cutting down on holidays will impact the economy and the workforce.
One of those issues that divides people, right? On the one hand, employees are happy, right? More holidays, especially if it's a long weekend. On the other hand, it does cost businesses. So
Business disruptions, and then if you want to still continue, you have to pay extra. So it kind of messes with the costs, I think.
And that's when all the other issues around rising wages, around the cost of doing business, around the lower GDP print. That's where it all comes into play.
And to add to that, also the changing policies that confuse potential investors.
Wow.
Okay, while we mull that over, let's go on a quick commercial break. But right after that, the Philippines has been dubbed as the world's most disaster-prone country. So are businesses making more sustainable decisions in the boardroom as a result? We'll be asking Stewardship Asia Center CEO Rajiv Peshawaria that question when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You are watching the big story here on One News.
The Agriculture Department says fishermen affected by the recent oil spill near the coast of Limay, Bataan will be given fuel subsidies. Speaking at a public briefing, DA spokesperson Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa said BFAR has already started its fuel subsidy rollout worth 3,000 pesos per fisher alongside the distribution of relief packs.
Inutos na, of course, ng ating Pangulo at ni Secretary Chu Laurel yung pamamahagi ng relief assistance sa mga mangingisda. Ganon din yung tinatawag natin na fuel subsidy na nagkakahalaga ng 3,000 pesos. Ngayong taon ay may inilaan na 500 million para sa mga mangingisda under this fuel assistance at another 500 million doon sa ibang nagmamayari ng makinarya. Ito yung para lamang sa mangingisda na 500 million at dinidistribute na ito. At pinag-aaralan pa rin ngayon yung paggamit din ng Quick Response Fund.
Based on latest data from the DA, as of August 8, the oil spill has impacted over 28,000 fishermen with losses amounting to approximately 78.69 million pesos. The DA has already reported the implementation of fishing bans in 16 areas amid the effects of the oil spill. The agency also reminds the public that shellfish harvesting is still prohibited in areas affected by the oil spill in Bataan, including parts of Calabarzon.
Hanggang maaari doon sa mga lugar na nabanggit dito sa NCR, Bataan at saka dito sa bandang Cavite, Calabarzon area, pinagbabawal talaga yung paghuli at saka pagkain na mga shellfish kagaya ng tahong, talaba, yung mga crabs natin. Bagamat yung karamihan na isda na naglaland dito sa Nabotas, galing ito sa Lucena, galing dito sa Visayas at ligtas kainin. At itong BIFAR natin, regular silang nagko-conduct ng sensory evaluation para masigurado na yung mga bumabagsak na isda dito sa mga pantalan ay talagang walang petrochemicals.
Well,
Giving a fuel subsidy to fishermen who actually can't take their boats out
to fish
because of an oil spill. So it's so ironic that the very thing that's preventing them from
That's a good
fishing.
point. I suspect it's maybe the money was
Already
actually allocated earlier in the year before this oil spill even happened. That's just me
Yes.
guessing, by
I'm
the
also,
way.
I agree with you. It's because of the rising fuel prices. However, the government official, though, did mention a quick response fund. I think that's the one that they should work on deploying and distributing ASAP.
And they were talking about relief packs as well. Maybe that's also concurrently happening. But you're right. I mean, fuel subsidies. I'm sure the fishermen would appreciate anything. Help, though.
That's true.
It's just the timing is a bit odd to say that we're giving you fuel subsidies when they can't
Fish because
literally
of fuel
because of the
in the water.
because of the oil in the water. In any case, well, evidenced by that, according to the World Risk Index 2023, the Philippines is the most disaster-prone country globally. So this should highlight the urgent need for businesses in the Philippines to prioritize sustainability, right? And yet, a new study by the Stewardship Asia Center based in Singapore found that in the private sector, only about 25% prioritize sustainability in boardroom discussions. And that's despite growing regulatory pressure and societal expectations. In that study titled Global Sustainable Competitiveness Report, the Philippines ranked 90th out of 180 countries. Let's try to break this study down further. We have with us tonight Stewardship Asia Center CEO Rajiv Peshawaria. He joins us live from Singapore. Good evening, Rajiv. Welcome to The Big Story.
Thank you.
You know what I realized? We booked you on National Day, on Singapore's National Day. So I apologize for that if you had to cut short your celebrations to talk to us.
That's all right. That's perfect. It's a pleasure to be here.
I promise you it was not intentional. So let's start with the headline figure. 90th out of 180 countries is where the Philippines ranks in your global sustainable competitiveness report. That's pretty low on the totem pole. Put that into context for us. What are the challenges there?
I mean, when it comes to sustainability, there are challenges not just in the Philippines, but all over the world. My short answer to what the problem is, why is there not enough action, corporate action? Because you see, we have to talk about corporate action because 69 of the top 100 global economies are companies, not countries. So businesses have to take ownership. And it's not just in the Philippines, all over the world. Everybody talks about sustainability, but actual action is nowhere near the talk or the decimal.
And by your research, why is that? Is it what are the barriers that's hindering boards from translating some of these intentions into real tangible actions?
So when we asked that question to the directors that we interviewed and we surveyed across Asia Pacific, the most common answer was that I don't know. I don't have enough information. I don't have enough knowledge about the issues and the solutions. Personally, I don't agree with that. I think in today's day of connectivity, where any kind of information is available to our at our fingertips, the excuse that I don't know if that's really valid, because all the information that you need is available for free. You just have to go look for it. But that is the refrain that we hear, not just in Asia, but everywhere else, that I don't know. I think the real issue is we are trying to solve a leadership problem with incentives, regulation, and money. So yeah, regulations are needed, incentives are needed, cheaper capital is needed, but above all, the companies that are really making a positive impact on the environment and society, companies that are doing well by doing good, They're not doing it because of regulation. They're not doing it because of incentives, nor of cheap capital. They're doing it because they want to, because of a different leadership intent. They see themselves as steward leaders, stewards of planet Earth and humanity, and they take it upon themselves to make money by addressing today's most existential challenges. So that's where we need to bring more awareness on, that there are ways to make money by addressing these very existential challenges that are threatening humanity today.
Well, some people, Rajiv, would say, some business leaders would say, if it reflects in cost efficiencies, then they're all for it, right? But what would really make a CEO or a leader actually change his mind and just say, you know what, I'm just going to do this for the heck of it, for the environment, for the future, without any monetary compensation? We can't, so to speak, convert people from, set ways of thinking. Is there some sort of suggestion on how to tweak this mindset?
There is this misconception that addressing environmental and social challenges actually takes away from profitability and growth. It's a huge misconception. If you look at the history of wealth creation, ultra amounts of wealth were created when entrepreneurs were able to put their finger on the biggest pain points of society at a given point of time and find profitable solutions. So whether it was electricity, whether it was transportation, whether it was anything, you name it, steel, oil, there was a big pain point in society. Entrepreneurs found a profitable solution and they make huge amounts of money. Today's biggest pain points are climate change, socioeconomic inequality, and cyber and technology vulnerability. Anybody that puts their finger on that and finds profitable solutions is going to make money, because consumers and customers are demanding that kind of product. I'll give you just one example. There's a company in Germany that is looking at how cement is made, and not only are they reducing the cement emission, the carbon emissions from cement production by 50%, the product is going to be stronger and cheaper. So that's just one example. What we need here is innovation to build tomorrow's products cheaper, better, faster. And that requires leadership.
That's an interesting product. So your message being sustainability is profitable.
Of course, sustainability is profitable. There is a lot of innovation going on, because you see, forget about sustainability for a business. You're in business, you want to make money. How do you make money? By giving your customers and consumers products that they want, services that they want. Now, to say that, to go green, we will charge a premium to the consumer, that's not an option. That's not a good option. Consumers are already reeling under inflation. What we need is creative resilience, which means innovate to find cheaper, better, faster products that are greener, that are better for the environment, but no more expensive for the average consumer. And for that, you need innovation. You need to take a long-term view that in the long run, this is what my consumers want. And if I'm early to the market to give them what the consumer wants, our company is going to do well. We've got research now spanning 500 companies that say, if you believe in steward leadership, if you believe in kind of values that I'm talking about, these companies live for hundreds of years. They profitably grow for hundreds of years.
Okay, if certain innovations, certain technologies are there, Rajiv, and certain leaders are not adopting these, even though it means increased profitability and efficiency for those looking for just to improve their bottom line, what then would bridge the gap? And why is there even a gap? If there are things available and it works for your business goals, why are leaders not, getting there?
Because the majority of leaders are not forward-looking. You see, the average lifespan of a company these days is only 18 years, and then yet there are companies that live for hundreds of years, right? In a typical business, there is today's business model, today's cash cow, which you have to execute and get the most out of it. But the most forward-looking businessmen and women, they also look at what is the business model going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and simultaneously build towards that as well. It's the ones that don't look at what's coming next. And anybody can tell that what's coming next is more havoc by climate change, more havoc because of socioeconomic inequality and cyber vulnerability. We have to start creating capacity to solve such problems so that we can be well positioned when the current cash cow dries. Right. And only 2 out of 10, if that, business leaders actually have the foresight to build both together. Right. Most of them are in the business of protecting the current business model, hoping that the new trends will go away. And that is the problem.
Yeah.
Rajiv, well, we have some notes here when it comes to board focus. 72% of board directors in the study stated that financial performance is usually the primary focus when it comes to discussions inside the boardroom, and only 25% prioritize sustainability. So for companies or businesses that want to finally have those tangible, sustainable efforts, what's the first step? Where do they begin? How can they spark more discussions about this?
Well, in the boardroom, if you're talking specifically about the boardroom, because the study is about the role of the board, the one thing I always say is demand to see sustainability first strategies. Actually, most people are focused on in sustainability box checking and regulation. So what's our net zero strategy? What are we going to do with that? Are we meeting with all the regulators' demands on that? Yes, you have to do that. But demand to see sustainability first strategies, both environmental or social. Pick one or two of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations that are closest to your business model and build profitable strategies, profitable solutions for those. The one thing I would say is don't try to address all 17. Go for the one or two that are closest to your business model, come up with profitable solutions to those, and go for it, because it's clear. Consumers, as soon as they have a choice, they will go to a company and buy from a company that brings them more sustainable products. If there's no choice, it's a different matter. And if you are a monopoly, it's a matter of time before that's going to be broken in free markets.
Right. And then, Rajiv, finally, there's an interesting chart in your report mapping out the sustainability drivers for each country. For the Philippines, it's number 1, the regulator, and number 2, customers. I believe we have that chart, if you could just flash it. And that's interesting to me because it differs in other countries. So Philippines, it's the same as Singapore, again, driven by regulators and then customers. For the others, it's more push from society or the community. Taking a look at Vietnam, for instance, and Indonesia, regulator only comes second. Talk us through that. Where is the difference coming from? And what does that mean that customers are pushing for more, demanding more sustainability from corporations and brands?
You know, it differs a little bit, but not a whole lot from around the world and Asia. Pressure coming from regulations is the biggest driver for companies to do something about it. But unfortunately, regulation only minimizes, it does not maximize the innovation needed, right? So a lot of the companies are actually box checking for an innovation and saying that we have to do it because the regulator says so. Consumers, on the other hand, are feeling the pinch. They're feeling the pinch of inflation. In Philippines, they're feeling the pinch of Mother Nature, and are saying that we demand more sustainability action.
So apart from pressure, there is consumers. Each of us basically have some leverage, right? We all can speak up and push our brands to be more sustainable. And as you said, sustainability can be profitable. We're going to have to leave that there for tonight. Thank you so much for your insights, for sharing your insights. And again, happy National Day. Rajiv Peshwaria, CEO of the Stewardship Asia Center in Singapore.
Okay, we just have a little bit more time before the weekend, but we still have our big picture on this Friday night. And here is a reminder not to wade through or swim in floodwaters. What you're seeing now are patients who contracted leptospirosis due to the flooding from Typhoon Karina in the Habagat. 67 have been admitted at the NKTI, or the National Kidney Institute, where 3 have already died. And several are undergoing dialysis due to advanced stage leptospirosis. This disease is caused by bacteria from the urine of infected animals and infects the blood. It enters the body through open wounds or sores, the eyes, nose, and mouth, or mucous membranes.
Whatever happened to ending the show on the Olympics? We always, we've been doing, I mean, big
yes,
picture Olympics.
I agree with you, but this is a real important reminder. I think we always say it because sometimes you just don't know in your panic that you can contract this, and there's no way for you to detect it anymore in the floodwaters when it's mixed there, and it can go through your mucous membranes, not just open wounds.
Right.
And I think we might also forget, to have ourselves checked if we suspect, and there is a prophylactic for it.
That's a very important public service reminder, but it is the end of the week, so let's try to end on an up note. bring it back to the Olympics, the fact that there's 2 golds and 2 bronzes.
And
yes.
one more match.
Okay, just
One
like we
more
said yesterday.
weightlifter.
Yabang naman. Look at us talking about the tally, the medal count.
Number 1
Vanessa
in Southeast
Sarno.
Asia. Yes, Vanessa will be competing 1:30 a.m. So
Oh,
Okay.
we're gonna have to pull another late
yes,
night
a
or
late
early
night.
morning.
But that's okay
the
because
last-
it's Saturday tomorrow.
Yes.
Hey, it went by really quick.
2 weeks,
Parang-
right?
Yeah, 2 weeks went by just like that. I think it's because there's been so much action, so much excitement, so much drama.
Also, our events have been kind of spaced out nicely too, allowing us time to recover from our
Across a
puyat.
wide range of sports at that. As you said, sulit yung puyat.
Sulit
Right?
talaga.
All the ones that we've been watching, whether that's pole vaulting, weightlifting, boxing, lahat have been sulit.
From the opening ceremony, now
Yung
we're down to
palang.
the
Yeah.
right opening. We were there. We saw our athletes in the rain, but finally it will be the closing ceremony on August 11. I believe that's August 12 here in the Philippines.
No.
So
Already.
so fast.
It makes me a little bit sad.
Before we know it, they're back home, and we'll be welcoming them, of course.
With a hero's
With a
journey,
hero's
especially
welcome.
Manila LGU is welcoming
Carlos
in particular Kaloy Yulo and EJ
EJ
Viena with
Viena.
the Grand Heroes Parade. Although we don't know the date for that just yet.
Because those are their 2 residents of Manila, one from Tondo, one from Malate.
That's right. That's right.
And of course,
Proud
more
na proud
cash
yung
prizes.
Manila.
Oo nga. Okay, soon we will be seeing our athletes. But for this week, that's it from us 3 here at The Big Story.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night and a great weekend.